Welcome to the latest episode of the Informing Choices mini-pod. In the past, the notion of reinvented government might have been associated with performance management to sharpen the public services saw. But are we now on the precipice of a new era where revolutionary restructuring might underpin, support, and enable the delivery of effective public services? And what role might innovation, entrepreneurship, and new and emerging technology play in the reshaping of government into the future? To discuss reinventing government through political entrepreneurship and exponential innovation, I'm delighted to welcome back to the podcast marketing consultant, writer, and futurist Michael Mascioni. Michael, welcome back to the podcast. Tell us a little bit about your book, if you would.
Sure. So the book that I've recently written is called Reinventing Government Through Political Entrepreneurship and Exponential Innovation. And basically the idea of the book is that basically covers that are in a way adopting entrepreneurship techniques from the private sector, from the business world, and adapting that to the public sector using techniques, again, borrowed and adapted from the business and technology worlds, including techniques and strategies like crowdsourcing, gamification, rapid experimentation. And then on the other side of the book, another aspect of the book is really covering the impact of exponential technologies like artificial intelligence, virtual reality, robotics, and 3D printing. In addition, the book discusses future and emergent government models.
What trends do you see in experimental government and public policy projects?
Right. So I think one of the trends in terms of experimentation and innovation in government and public policy, human and technological issues affecting innovation in government and public policy. So that includes, again, the use of techniques like crowdsourcing, gamification, rapid experimentation, and experimental projects that cover different, that have different facets, including not only technological innovation, but social innovation and trust in government, and certainly sustainability is a big part of a lot of these projects. And I think the idea is that also this experimentation is taking place in kind of a more holistic manner, across different agencies and government. So it's not just narrowly focused. Another aspect of experimentation that I foresee in the future is the use of leisure facilities like amusement parks and museums to test new concepts, almost in a sort of a pop-up fashion in these facilities, and using immersive technologies like VR and AR and games, such as role-playing games and simulation games. So I see that emerging, again, on a temporary or pop-up basis in those facilities.
What elements are key to democracy entrepreneurship and public entrepreneurship?
Right. So I guess one of the obvious elements that I forgot to mention in terms of political entrepreneurs is the idea of taking risk. And taking risk kind of beyond the ordinary risks that you might take with public sector projects. So that certainly applies to democracy entrepreneurs, and obviously, adapted to the public sector and government sphere. But I mean, that element of risk is very important. And I think in terms of democracy entrepreneurs, one important element is sort of building up sort of a conglomeration of different like-minded organizations. And, democracy entrepreneurs also connotes, greater inclusion in government, appealing, conducting projects that satisfy the needs of, minorities, women, different interest groups. So that's a big part of it. And also the idea of democracy entrepreneurs is the idea that innovation and entrepreneurship in the public sector is going to come from outside government, not just government. And there's also a training aspect that these organizations are trying to, train the next generation of, political leaders and entrepreneurs.
Which technologies do you anticipate will play a major role in future government? You've already mentioned one or two. So which are the key technologies, do you think?
Right. So the main exponential technology the exponential technology that's having the greatest impact right now on government is clearly artificial intelligence. Chatbots are being used. There's a greater use of machine learning that's being used in government, and it's going to become, more advanced applications of AI will be used in government in the future, but that would be the dominant exponential technology. That will be the dominant, exponential technology used in government and the public sector in the near future. Virtual reality, I think it's being used to some extent in a limited way in government, primarily in the defense area, in aerospace, medicine, applications like that. But that will become, pretty significant. There'll be a significant use of that technology. 3D printing is another technology that's being used in government or government public sector projects to build affordable housing. It's being used by NASA in terms of constructing outer space environments. So again, there's a limited use of it at the moment, but that's going to expand considerably in the future. I would say robotics is kind of in the same category. It's had some limited use in government, again, in the defense sector and energy, other areas like that. But that will be used to a much greater extent in the future as well. So that's sort of a quick roundup of some of the main exponential technologies.
One of the things that intrigues me is the use of collective intelligence, the bringing together, if you like, of smart machines, artificial intelligence, with human creativity and human sense making. What role do you see that sort of combination of human and machine playing in the future?
Right. Well, it's going to become very significant, and it's already being used in certain experimental projects for government. It's being used, for example, by an organization called Dark Matter Labs, which organizes a lot of experimental design projects, public sector area. They're particularly active in projects, experimental projects in urban environments. So they've used, what they call civic intelligence, civic AI intelligence, gathering input from communities and using that as a basis to develop solutions in terms of sustainability, in terms of health issues. So, collective intelligence can often refer in the government sector to, crowdsourcing. Crowdsourcing does not necessarily use AI, but AI definitely enhances the use of crowdsourcing. So it's being used in that sector and gathering information, for example, about the environment, environmental issues, energy issues, things of that sort. So, the integration of all of these different elements, it's starting to be used in the public sector, but, that will certainly grow significantly, especially as more advanced forms of AI are used and greater, and as the use of crowdsourcing expands in government.
Michael, thank you very much indeed for your time today. Political polarization and media fixation on political theatre and personalities have contributed to a sense of frustration about the quality of politics and politicians around the globe. But this obscures the emerging new wave of innovation that is set to dramatically transform the landscape of government. In his book, Michael views political entrepreneurs as political risk takers that allocate resources, make bets on particular industries, establish new kinds of partnerships with businesses, citizens groups, and other organizations, and help to cultivate new ecosystems far beyond government's traditional role in fostering business development. In that sense, they are fostering more collaborative, even liquid government. Michael is seeking to demonstrate that innovation in and by an increasing number of government bodies has become far more diffuse, cross-disciplinary, expansive and fluid, especially with the rise of digital government practices and greater citizen input. Government and political innovation now exist on far more diverse levels, including traditional states, alternative political parties, new kinds of centrist think tanks, and virtual nations, though some of these forms are clearly very underdeveloped and something to keep an eye on for the future. Michael's book is available now from Amazon, and there's a link in the podcast description. And thank you everyone for listening. Do let your friends and colleagues know about the Informing Choices mini-pod, and don't forget to check out the contact information in the podcast description to learn more about Michael, his book, and his work. See you again soon.